Commander Zara Mad Dog Chen drummed her fingers against the control panel of her fighter craft, matching the beat of an ancient Earth song that absolutely no one in the Space Force approved of. Something about professional military conduct and maintaining dignity in the face of potential alien contact, she snorted. If aliens couldn't handle highway to hell, they weren't worth meeting anyway. Patrol Report 247, she drawled into the recorder. Jupiter's looking particularly orange today, really bringing out its spots. Still no signs of intelligent life, unless you count that space debris that kind of looked like my ex's personality, scattered and unstable. She paused, watching her radar screen flicker with the usual asteroid signatures. Time is? Who cares? We've been out here 3 months, and the most exciting thing that's happened was when I convinced the AI to translate your mama jokes into 17 different alien languages. The Trickster, her experimental fighter craft, hummed sympathetically. At least that's what Zara chose to believe. The engineers back on Earth insisted it was just the quantum drive cycling, but she knew better. 3 years of flying this beauty had taught her that the ship had more personality than most of her commanding officers. You know what, Trix, she mused, stretching in her pilot's seat. Maybe we should. The radar erupted in a symphony of alerts. Well, Zara straightened, her casual demeanor shifting ever so slightly as she watched multiple signatures materialize from what appeared to be a fold in space-time. Look who finally decided to crash our party. The ships, and there were many of them, were unlike anything in Earth's database. Their hulls gleamed with an iridescent purple-black sheen like oil on water, and their formation spoke of military precision that would have made her old drill sergeant weep with joy. Trickster, run analysis. Her fingers flew across the holographic interface, initiating passive scans while keeping her fighter's signature as low as possible, and maybe dim the lights a bit. Let's not look too eager for our first date. The AI displayed its findings: 27 warships, including what appeared to be their equivalent of a dreadnought, all armed to their hypothetical teeth. Energy readings suggested weapons that could turn Earth's most fortified stations into cosmic dust. Neat, Zara commented, pulling up her emergency protocols while simultaneously queuing up her things are about to get interesting playlist. Hey Trix, what's the protocol for when you're outgunned about? Let's see. Carry the 2. Divide by our chances of survival. About 1,000,000 to 1. The AI flashed the official Space Force protocol across her screen. Retreat and alert Earth command, she read aloud, her voice dripping with mock consideration. Solid plan. Very responsible. Very by the book. She cracked her knuckles and grinned. How about we try something more fun instead? The alien fleet had arranged themselves in an attack formation that practically screamed, "We're here to conquer your pathetic species." Their dreadnought alone was larger than some of Earth's smaller cities. Trickster, open a channel to Earth Command. She waited for the connection to establish. Command, this is Commander Chen. We've got company. Lots of it. Big, scary, probably hostile company. Sending data now. She paused, then added, also, I'm about to do something that'll probably get me court-martialed. Again, Chen out. Before Command could respond, she switched to an open channel, broadcasting on all frequencies. Her grin widened as she prepared to either make first contact or start an interstellar war. At this point, either option seemed equally entertaining. Attention, unidentified alien fleet, she announced cheerfully. This is Commander Zara Chen of the Earth Space Force. You're currently trespassing in Earth-controlled space, and I've got to say your formation is a little basic. 3 out of 10 would not be intimidated again. The response was immediate, a burst of energy signatures as the alien fleet powered up their weapons. Perfect, Zara muttered, cracking her neck. Tricks, honey, power up everything. And I mean everything, she smiled, the kind of smile that had earned her the call sign Mad Dog back in flight school. Let's show these folks why they should have called ahead for reservations. The response from the alien fleet came in the form of a holographic transmission that filled Zara's cockpit with an unsettling purple glow. The figure that materialized looked like someone had tried to cross a mantis with a Persian cat and then gave it ceremonial armor for good measure. I am Admiral Vex Thor of the Kraaxian Empire, the figure announced in perfectly translated English, though the way its mandibles clicked suggested it was rather annoyed about having to use such a primitive language. Your species has been deemed unworthy of continued autonomous existence. Surrender now, and we shall ensure your integration into our empire is relatively painless. Zara studied her nails for a moment before looking up. Quick question. Vexy, can I call you Vexy? Do those mandibles make it hard to eat soup? I've always wondered about that with you insectoid types. The Admiral's compound eyes flickered in what might have been confusion or rage. Probably both. You dare mock. Oh, I dare a lot of things, Zara cut in, swiveling lazily in her pilot's seat. For instance, I dare to wonder why you brought 27 ships just to say hello. Seems a bit excessive, almost like you're compensating for something. While she spoke, Trickster was quietly activating its more interesting modifications. The ship wasn't just experimental, it was what happened when you let a group of genius engineers drink too much coffee and watch too many old sci-fi movies. The quantum core pulsed with possibilities, each one more impossible than the last. You do not seem to grasp the gravity of your situation, Vex Thor hissed. The Kraaxian Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds. Our technology is beyond your comprehension. This fleet has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. Neat resume, Zara nodded appreciatively. Very impressive. Quick question though, have any of those civilizations ever shown you this? She pressed a button, and Trickster's external speakers began blasting Never Gonna Give You Up at maximum volume. The confusion on Vex Thor's face was almost worth the entire 3-month patrol. What? What is this primitive audio assault? That, my dear Admiral, is Earth's sacred war song. Legend has it that it's never failed to annoy an enemy into submission. Zara began humming along while Trickster's systems continued their subtle preparations. Also, while you've been trying to look intimidating, you should know that my ship has just finished mapping every structural weakness in your fleet's formation. Would you like to see? She wasn't bluffing. Trickster was more than just a fighter, it was a technological marvel wrapped in an unassuming package. While most ships relied on conventional quantum drives, Trickster operated on what its creators called probability manipulation. It didn't just navigate through space, it navigated through possibilities. Your pathetic vessel cannot possibly. Oh, but it can, Zara interrupted again, enjoying how each interruption made Vex Thor's mandibles twitch. See, while you've been monologuing, lovely speech by the way, very classic villain, I've had time to analyze your entire fleet. Did you know your flagship's port shield generator fluctuates every 3.7 seconds? Tiny thing, really, probably wouldn't matter against most opponents. Her grin turned predatory. But I'm not most opponents. The Trickster's holographic displays came alive, showing detailed scans of each Kraaxian vessel. The ship's AI had identified not just weaknesses, but patterns, patrol routes, response times, blind spots. It was like having a cheat code for a space battle. You are one fighter against an armada, Vex Thor stated, though there was a new note in his voice, something close to uncertainty. Your death will serve as an example to your species. Counteroffer. Zara leaned forward, all pretense of casualness gone. How about I serve as an example of why the Kraaxian Empire should have stayed home today? Trickster, show them what you can do. The small demonstration, please. Her ship flickered, not like a malfunction, but like reality itself was having hiccups. One moment it was in front of the Kraaxian fleet, the next it was behind them, then above, then seemingly in multiple places at once. Each flicker was accompanied by a different song from Earth's history, creating a cacophony of human music that had Vex Thor's bridge crew covering what passed for their ears. What sorcery is this? The Admiral demanded. Not sorcery, science. Really weird science, but science nonetheless. Want to know the best part? Zara's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. This isn't even the cool stuff. So, how about we try this conversation again? You can start by apologizing for interrupting my patrol, and then we can discuss why attempting to invade Earth would be the biggest mistake since humanity invented reply all emails. The Kraaxian fleet's weapons remained charged, but there was a noticeable hesitation now. Zara had succeeded in doing what she did best, disrupting expectations and creating chaos. It wasn't just about the technology or the tactics, it was about making them question everything they thought they knew about humanity. You leave us no choice, Vex Thor finally declared. All ships open fire on. Yeah, no, Zara sighed, pressing another button. Trickster, initiate Operation Party Crasher. Let's show them why they call us Mad Dog. The real fight was about to begin, and Zara couldn't help but smile. After all, she hadn't even shown them what happened when she activated the quantum uncertainty drive's impossible settings. The void erupted in a symphony of plasma fire and energy beams as 27 Kraaxian ships unleashed their arsenals at a single point in space. The amount of firepower could have cracked a small moon. Unfortunately for them, they were shooting at where Trickster had been approximately 3 possibilities ago. You know, Zara's voice crackled over their comms as her ship appeared to split into 5 identical copies, each heading in a different direction. There's an old Earth saying about bringing a knife to a gunfight. You all just brought battleships to a quantum physics debate. The Trickster wasn't just avoiding their shots, it was making their targeting systems question the fundamental nature of reality. Each time their weapons locked on, sensor data suggested the small fighter was simultaneously in multiple locations, following trajectories that broke several laws of physics. "What's wrong?" Vexy Zara taunted as she or one version of her dove through the space between two Kraaxian cruisers. "Having trouble hitting what you can't predict." The Kraaxian formation began to break apart as ships tried to track the impossible target. Zara took advantage of their confusion to demonstrate another of Trickster's party tricks. As she passed between the cruisers, her ship's quantum field interacted with their shields, causing them to flicker and synchronize in exactly the wrong way. "Oops," she commented cheerfully as the two ships' shield frequencies matched and then cancelled each other out. "Did I do that?" "Tricks, make a note, shield resonance cascade works exactly like Dr. Wong said it would. She owes me a coffee." Admiral Vex Thor's voice thundered across the battlefield. "Impossible. No single ship can." "Let me stop you right there," Zara interrupted, while Trickster executed a maneuver that looked less like flying and more like telling space-time to hold her beer. First rule of humanity telling us something's impossible is basically guaranteeing we'll do it out of spite. To demonstrate her point, she activated what the engineering team had dubbed the physics is more of a suggestion drive. Trickster's quantum core pulsed, and suddenly the ship wasn't just bending probability, it was actively rewriting local space-time equations. 3 Kraaxian destroyers found themselves firing at an enemy that, according to their sensors, existed 2 seconds in the future, while physically appearing 3 seconds in the past. Their targeting computers gave up and decided to display error. Math machine broke in Kraaxian. "Here's a fun fact about human engineering," Zara continued her commentary as she wove through the increasingly chaotic battlefield. "We built this ship not because we needed it, but because someone said, hey, what if we made quantum uncertainty our bitch, and then we did it." While listening to death metal. On a Tuesday, the Kraaxian fleet's formation had devolved into something that looked less like a military operation and more like a confused swarm of angry space bees. Ships were firing in all directions, trying to hit a target that seemed to treat the laws of physics as loose guidelines. "Attention all Kraaxian vessels," Zara broadcast while executing a loop that, according to several physics professors, should have turned her into an interesting new form of matter. "I'm about to demonstrate why they call this beauty." Trickster might want to take notes. She engaged the ship's probability manipulator at full power. Suddenly, every shot fired by the Kraaxian fleet had to deal with the fact that their target was manipulating the statistical likelihood of being hit. Plasma bolts curved around empty space where they were 99.9% certain to hit. Targeting systems reported successful locks on locations that simultaneously existed and didn't exist. "Fun fact about quantum mechanics," Zara explained, as she used one cruiser's gravity well to slingshot herself into what could charitably be called a tactical position. "If you observe something, you change it. Right now, you're all trying very hard to observe exactly where I am, which means..." She let the sentence hang as Trickster executed its master stroke. The quantum uncertainty field expanded, briefly making the fighter exist in a superposition of states that would have made Schrödinger's cat ask for a drink. 3 Kraaxian ships fired at what their sensors claimed was a guaranteed hit. Their shots passed through empty space as Trickster appeared behind them, its weight causing their shields to flicker and die. "You're actually helping me move faster," she finished. "Basic quantum physics. They teach this stuff in high school now. Well, the really weird high schools." Admiral Vex Thor's dreadnought launched a barrage of missiles, each equipped with probability tracking warheads. Zara just laughed. "Oh, that's adorable. You think you can track quantum uncertainty with more quantum uncertainty?" Trickster's systems hummed as she engaged what the engineers had labeled the "don't press this button." "Let me show you what happens when you fight fire with quantum fire." The missiles, designed to track any normal probability pattern, suddenly had to deal with a target that was actively manipulating the probability of their own probability calculations. They spiraled off into space, their guidance systems experiencing what could only be described as an existential crisis. "Status report," Vex Thor demanded from his flagship, so one of his officers responded, mandibles clicking in distress. "According to our sensors, the human ship is currently occupying 17 different positions, exists in 3 temporal states, and is what? Is broadcasting something called 'never gonna give you up' directly into our targeting computers." The battle had devolved into exactly the kind of chaos Zara excelled in. The Kraaxian fleet, designed for formal military engagements against predictable enemies, was struggling to adapt to an opponent who treated space combat like a mixture of quantum physics and performance art. "You know what your real problem is?" Zara asked as she used one ship's confusion to cause another ship's weapons to target a third. "You came here expecting a conventional fight. But humanity. We looked at the universe's rulebook, decided it was more of a suggestion guide, and then used it as scratch paper to design ships like this one." The Trickster spun through space, leaving a wake of confused aliens and broken physical laws behind it. Each maneuver was simultaneously a tactical decision and a middle finger to conventional space combat doctrine. Now she announced, positioning herself for what was about to be either a brilliant strategic move or a spectacular way to get court-martialed. "Who's ready to see what happens when I press the button labeled 'Only press if you want to make physics cry'?" The response from the Kraaxian fleet was a mixture of panic, confusion, and the distinct sound of superior forces realizing they might have picked the wrong fight. And Zara? She was just getting started. "You know what's really fun about quantum mechanics?" Zara asked conversationally as she activated Trickster's core systems to full power. "It's the only field of science where being absolutely uncertain about something is actually beneficial. Tricks, initiate Operation Chaos. Authorization code Schrodinger's Revenge." The ship's quantum core pulsed with a light that seemed to exist in colors physics had forgotten to name. Warning messages flashed across her console in 7 different languages, including 2 that hadn't been invented yet. "Here's how this is going to work," she broadcast to the increasingly nervous Kraaxian fleet. "I'm about to make everything you know about space combat completely irrelevant. Think of it as a learning experience." Trickster's true form began to emerge. The seemingly modest fighter craft started phasing through different configurations, each one more impossible than the last. Panels shifted and reformed, revealing weapon systems that technically couldn't exist in normal spacetime. "See, the funny thing about Trickster," Zara explained while her ship casually violated several fundamental laws of physics, "is that it's not just a ship, it's humanity's love letter to breaking reality. Watch this." She engaged what the engineers had dubbed the reality as left the chat protocol. Suddenly, Trickster wasn't just moving through space, it was moving through probability itself. Each motion created cascading waves of quantum uncertainty that played havoc with the Kraaxian targeting systems. "First target," Zara announced cheerfully, "that big fancy command ship on your left flank. The one that's trying very hard to pretend it's not about to retreat." Trickster split into what appeared to be 12 identical copies, each one occupying a different quantum state. The Kraaxian ships fired desperately, but their shots passed through 11 phantom images, while the real Trickster, or what passed for real in this situation, appeared inside their formation. "Fun fact about your shield technology," she commented, while executing a maneuver that made several physics professors wake up in cold sweats without knowing why. "It's designed to stop things that exist. I'm currently existing in a superposition of states that your shields can't quite process. So..." The command ship's shields flickered and died as Trickster's quantum field interfered with their fundamental frequency. A precise shot fired from 3 different positions simultaneously reduced the vessel to elegantly drifting debris. Panic began to spread through the Kraaxian fleet. Their tight formation dissolved into chaos as ship captains tried to adapt to an enemy that treated basic reality as a polite suggestion. "You think that's impressive?" Zara's voice crackled across their comms. "Watch this. Trickster, execute maneuver Newton's Revenge." The ship's quantum drive engaged in a way that made local space-time throw up its hands and walk away. Trickster appeared to fold in on itself, creating a cascade of quantum possibilities that turned the surrounding area into a maze of probabilistic outcomes. 3 more Kraaxian vessels found themselves caught in what the engineering team had technically termed a quantum probability, not their systems, unable to process the contradictory sensor data, shut down completely. "Score update," Zara announced to no one in particular. "Humanity 4, Ancient Advanced Alien Empire 0. Also, is anyone keeping track of how many laws of physics we've broken? I need to update my quarterly report." Admiral Vex Thor's voice, now tinged with something approaching awe, cut through the chaos. "What manner of demons are you humans?" "Oh, we're not demons," Zara replied, using her ship's quantum state to casually phase through a barrage of plasma fire. "We're something much worse. We're engineers who got bored and decided to see what would happen if we weaponized theoretical physics." The remaining Kraaxian ships were now actively trying to retreat, but Trickster's quantum field had other ideas. Every time they attempted to calculate a jump vector, They found their computers trying to process coordinates that existed in a superposition of states. Here's another fun human concept for you, Zara continued, her ship dancing through space in ways that made geometry question its life choices. We have this thing called malicious compliance, for example. When someone says that's impossible, we don't just prove them wrong. We prove them wrong in the most absurd way possible. To demonstrate, she activated what the development team had labeled the spite drive. Trickster briefly existed in all possible locations within a 1,000-kilometer sphere, causing every Kraaxian targeting system to simultaneously register a lock and no lock at all. The legend was growing with each impossible maneuver. Kraaxian communications were filled with increasingly panicked reports about the human ship that defied reality itself. Some crews were already composing songs about the demon vessel that danced through quantum states. Final warning, Zara broadcast, her voice carrying the weight of someone who was about to do something spectacularly ill-advised. Surrender now, or I'll show you what happens when we engage the drives. This is just to prove a point setting. The response came in the form of scattered, disorganized fire from the remaining ships. Their once proud formation had devolved into what looked like a group project where nobody had read the assignment. Have it your way, she shrugged, fingers dancing across her controls. Trickster, initiate final phase of Operation Chaos. Let's show them why they call Earth the galaxy's Florida. The quantum core began to pulse with energy that made reality itself nervous. Zara grinned as she prepared to demonstrate exactly why letting humans play with quantum mechanics was generally considered a bad idea by more sensible species. The tide hadn't just turned, it had looked at conventional physics, laughed, and decided to flow uphill just to prove it could. Let's talk about human history for a moment. Zara broadcast to the increasingly demoralized Kraaxian fleet, while Trickster's quantum core charged to levels that made causality itself nervous. Specifically, let's talk about what happens when you corner a human. Tricks, initiate protocol, hold my beer. The ship's systems began to glow with an inner light that shouldn't have been visible in vacuum. Warning messages flashed across her console, reality stability at 15% and dropping, and quantum coherence approaching YOLO levels. You see, Admiral, she continued, addressing Vex Thor's flagship directly, there's something your intelligence reports probably didn't mention about Earth. We're the species that looked at the impossible, said watch this, and then did it while filming ourselves for social media. Trickster's quantum field expanded, creating a sphere of probability distortion that made the local space-time continuum look like abstract art. Inside her cockpit, Zara pulled up what the engineering team had labeled the break glass in case of absolute madness protocols. Here's what's about to happen, she announced, her voice carrying the kind of confidence that comes from either genius or insanity, or in her case, a healthy mix of both. I'm going to demonstrate why humans shouldn't be allowed to play with quantum mechanics unsupervised. The remaining Kraaxian ships had formed a defensive circle around their flagship, their weapons charged but their crews visibly hesitating. The legends were already spreading through their ranks, stories of a single human ship that bent reality itself, of a pilot who laughed in the face of physics. Trickster, execute maneuver, Schrödinger's middle finger. The ship suddenly existed in a quantum superposition of every tactical position simultaneously. The Kraaxian sensors showed them surrounded by what appeared to be an infinite number of human fighters, each one both real and unreal at the same time. Fun fact about human warfare, Zara commented, while reality tried to figure out exactly where she was. We learned a long time ago that the best way to win a fight isn't just about having better weapons. It's about making your enemy question everything they thought they knew about fighting. To demonstrate, she activated what the developers had dubbed the psychological warfare package. Suddenly, every Kraaxian ship's communications system began broadcasting a mixture of human music, ranging from classical Wagner to death metal, all synchronized to Trickster's impossible movements. Your sensors are probably telling you that I'm in about 1,000 places at once, she noted casually. They're wrong. I'm actually in 1,001 places. The extra one is just to mess with your math. Admiral Vex Thor's voice, now tinged with something approaching religious terror, crackled over the comms. What manner of physics is this? Old of you to assume physics is still involved, Zara replied cheerfully. Right now we're operating on what Earth scientists call spite-based mathematics. Tricks. Show them why they should have stayed in school. Trickster's quantum core pulsed one final time, and suddenly the space around the Kraaxian fleet became a kaleidoscope of probability cascades. Every possible tactical outcome began playing out simultaneously, creating a visual display that made several alien gunners question their career choices. Here's another fun human concept, Zara continued, her voice echoing from seemingly everywhere and nowhere. We have this thing called asymmetric warfare. It's when one side has all the big guns and fancy ships, and the other side has exactly one pilot who decided that the laws of physics were more like guidelines anyway. The Kraaxian fleet's formation began to crumble as ships started breaking ranks, their crews more concerned with maintaining their grip on sanity than maintaining military discipline. Some vessels were actively trying to retreat, only to find that space itself seemed to have developed a sense of humor about direction and distance. Final opportunity, Zara announced, her ship briefly appearing to exist as a fractal pattern of itself. Surrender now, or I'm going to have to show you what happens when we engage the because we can protocols. Fair warning, the last time we tested those, 3 quantum physicists had to take a vacation to recover their sense of reality. The response came in the form of scattered, uncoordinated fire that seemed more like a gesture of defiance than any real attempt at combat. The mighty Kraaxian fleet, terror of 1,000 worlds, had been reduced to a group of increasingly confused aliens trying to fight something that treated basic reality as optional. Have it your way, she shrugged, entering the final sequence. Trickster, execute ultimate protocol, reality is overrated. The quantum core went critical, in exactly the way the engineers had intended, which is to say, in a way that made conventional physics throw up its hands and go home. The space around the Kraaxian fleet became a symphony of impossible movements and probability cascades. Each alien ship found itself facing not just one human fighter, but an infinite series of quantum possibilities of that fighter, each one more real than the last. Their sensors, designed for conventional space combat, simply gave up and began displaying error messages in interpretive dance. Attention, Kraaxian fleet. Zara broadcast one final time, her voice somehow coming from everywhere at once. You are currently experiencing what Earth's quantum physics department calls a reality hiccup. Side effects may include existential crisis, questioning of fundamental beliefs, and a sudden appreciation for human ingenuity. Please consult your local philosophers for treatment options. The breaking point came when 3 Kraaxian ships attempted to fire at what they thought was the real Trickster, only to have their shots pass through a quantum ghost while the actual ship appeared inside their formation, existing in 5 dimensions simultaneously just to prove a point. That was it. The legendary Kraaxian fleet, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, did something they had never done before. They ran away. Not retreated, not executed a tactical withdrawal, they flat out ran, their ships practically tripping over each other in their haste to escape the quantum nightmare they had stumbled into. All except Admiral Vex Thor's flagship, which hung in space like the last student in class, still trying to understand the lesson. As the last Kraaxian ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving only their thoroughly traumatized admiral behind, Zara opened a final communication channel. Hey Vexy, before you go, which I assume you're about to, would you mind filling out our customer satisfaction survey? We're particularly interested in the likelihood to recommend invading Earth to other alien empires section. The Admiral's mandibles twitched in what might have been a nervous breakdown. You are not a species, you are a collective madness given form. Oh, thanks. That's going on our Christmas cards this year, she grinned. Now, go tell your empire something for me. Earth isn't defended by our weapons. It's defended by our ability to look at the impossible and say, hold my coffee. The flagship's retreat left behind nothing but silence, quantum residue, and a very smug human pilot. Back on Earth, the response to the battle was predictably human. The scientific community immediately demanded access to the combat logs, not out of military interest, but because Trickster had broken physics in several exciting new ways they wanted to study. 3 quantum physics departments got into a fistfight over who would get to write the first paper about spite-based probability manipulation. The military's official report read simply, Commander Chen successfully repelled alien invasion through tactical application of quantum improbability and psychological warfare. Recommend immediate revision of physics textbooks and tactical manuals. Also recommend never telling Commander Chen she can't do something. Within a month, the story had spread across the galaxy. Alien species began referring to humans as the ones who broke physics, because it was funny. Several advanced civilizations revised their assessment of Earth from primitive backwater to approach with extreme caution. They don't believe in impossible. The Kraaxian Empire officially classified Earth as protected by forces beyond comprehension, which was technically accurate, even if those forces were mostly human ingenuity and spite. As for Zara, she filed her mission report with her trademark style, encountered hostile alien fleet. Engaged in diplomatic discussions involving quantum physics demonstrations, suggested they reconsider their life choices. They agreed. Also, Trickster needs a tune-up. Pretty sure we bent reality a little too hard on that last maneuver. P.S. Dr. Wong still owes me that coffee. Years later, alien ships would still take the long way around Earth's solar system, sharing stories about the human pilot who turned quantum mechanics into an art form and probability into a weapon. Some said she still patrolled the outer reaches, waiting for the next fleet that needed a lesson in why challenging humanity was a mathematically unsound decision. And somewhere in deep space, Commander Zara Mad Dog Chen continued her patrols, Trickster humming contentedly as they bent reality just enough to keep the universe on its toes. After all, someone had to be out there, ready to remind any would-be invaders that humans had looked at the laws of physics, called them cute, and then turned them into guidelines. Just another day at the office for humanity's most improbable defender.